There's a show, I don't know if it's big in the US, it's big in Australia, and it's from the UK. It's called The IT Crowd, and it's about three IT people who live in the bottom of a big office. And and the joke is that they're continually rung by people with problems for their computers upstairs. And they just pick up the phone, and the first thing they say is, "Hi, this is Roy. Have you tried turning it off and on again?" That's like the running joke. And that's the other metaphor I've had. I think it ties in tonight, that this is actually so going back to we need now in the 21st century a new John Wesley style innovation to reactivate the people of God. Okay, so John Wesley did that, and there was others. But what's actually happened is I'm thinking, oh, I've got to come up with this thing, or hopefully someone will come up with this thing. We'll have this new program, and there's the book, and there's the conference, and woo, we've done it. What's actually happened? God's like, oh no, I'm just going to reboot the system. Now, again, I just want to be careful. I'm not saying God sent the COVID-19 thing, but God turns, these things for good, as Romans tells us. And so there's this profound resetting. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, cool. I'm going to be part of the answer to that. And then I'm typing into the computer, and the computer's just like shutting down for updates. Yeah. It's like, you're sitting there, and then I'm like, okay, this will be quick. And then it's like, you're like, oh, it's going to be 15 minutes. And then you think it's 50, and then it goes up again. It's 30. That's what we're in. And what's happened is exactly what you said. So we're trying to think about response, and I think the church still needs to do that. But then we're getting these text messages back and stories back of, hey, this young woman in my church has gone to her neighbors, done exactly what you've said. Hey, how can I help you? This group of people are getting together and playing puzzles to keep people who are feeling down. These people are doing this. These ER people are getting together to support each other because they can't see other people. And what's happening is it's like the reboot. And this distance. So the way I've thought about it, and it's like church would have leadership up here. Then we have our services, which is sort of like where all this stuff happens. And then you have the people in small groups, and then you have the individuals. The reboot is happening so that these mid-sized groups and connective tissue of social stuff are going to have to do it. And so there's these upgrades. So, the danger is that this is all going to switch down, and there's going to be some people, and they're just going to turn the computer on. And there's going to be that option of, do you want to do, it literally actually came up before I shut it down. It was like, updates are available now. I didn't want to stop this phone call with you. So I just said, remind me tomorrow. There's a bunch of people just going to go, no, do that later. And you just keep putting it off. But then your computer can get bugs in it. But we now are doing the full system. You can't do it, and often when I'm traveling, my bank does this because I'm overseas in America, and I'm trying to go to my bank, and it'll say, we're updating our system between 2 and 4 a.m., which is 2 and 4 a.m. in Australia. So I'm in America, somewhere like, oh, I can't access my bank, because it's night and there's a system upgrade. But what it's doing is it's now on the people. And it's like cultural Christianity is will disappear. It's not going to disappear. It'll always have a form, but it's now the onus of who God's, I think, saying to the people, who are the real disciples? Yes. If I could just give one more example on that. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Alive. Yeah. It was which is...
Wow, you want to bring that up right now. Okay, so about the soccer team that crashed in the Andes and...
Yes, 8 people. Okay, so they end up eating people, but I'm going to put the eating people thing aside. When I saw that movie, what was really interesting was you've got this, I think it was a Uruguayan rugby team, and they crash, and then there's the usual leadership of the team. So there's the captain and vice captain or whatever. And in the movie begins, and the chief person who becomes the hero, which is played by Ethan Hawke, who eventually leads them out of the Andes, right? It's over these mountains. He leads them out because everyone thought they were dead. They stopped looking for them. So these 3 guys had to get out. Ethan Hawke, who's that guy who ends up being the leader, he's not a leader in any capacity in the team before this happens. Yeah. At the beginning of the movie, he spends, I think, the first act of the movie unconscious. And you think he's dead. And then in the crisis, he all of a sudden comes to, and the movie begins with the people who were the leadership, the captain of the team before the crash, and their authority disappears. And then this guy who's asleep in the crisis all of a sudden gains authority. Yeah. And I believe that's going to happen now. I believe what God is doing, and if anyone's listening to this, you may never thought yourself a leader, but this could be the moment where you actually wake up and find out in this moment, you're actually more attuned to wartime leadership. Yes. I find this easier. There's an urgency. It's harder and easier all at the same time. There's an urgency to leadership. I'm not trying to, placate people's feelings. There's still some of that, of course, but But wartime leadership is, because that middle rung has disappeared, we then need to give a kind of message which is inspirational, visionary, explaining what's going on, and almost rallying of the people, not so much the chaplain to people's anxiety from the last era.
Yes.
That's a really key thing. Yes, we need to comfort and heal and help people through this, and people going through a really difficult time, but it's a total different thing. Sort of final comment, then I'll shut up. That the other thing is, like, I realized that my first thought at the beginning was scrambling for content delivery. We're like, oh, we can't do Sundays. How on earth are we going to do this? 1 camera, 2 cameras, web cameras, how many people in the room? But I began to realize yes, we need to think about content delivery, but you need to rethink your content.
This is a moment, I think, where we have to call the church to be disciples who make disciples. We have to call the church to be not, how do I survive my family in quarantine? That's not the goal. I feel like the goal is move outside of yourself for a moment and be a light into the world, like be a light. And a lot of what I'm seeing on a much bigger, like broadcast in the American church and the church in the West is like almost like missing the main point of, this is a crisis. The world needs the light of the church. It needs Jesus. Yes. This is not about how to help Christians survive and survive like, and don't hear me wrong, like not about how to survive like the hardships by not having your workout routine, but actually like there's a real crisis and it's going to get worse, and we need to help people engage in that place.
Yes. If you look at leadership, there is, traditionally different forms of leadership. There is positional leadership. If you're given a role, the president of this, you instantly have a sense of leadership with that. There is also charisma. There's people who are social leaders who just have charming, powerful personalities that get the attention of a room. And then there's intelligence leadership or knowledge leadership, that a person, if their car is broken down by the side of the road and there's 4 guys in that car, the guy who's a mechanic all of a sudden has a form of leadership because he knows what to do. I would say too that there is a new one, which I would say is lifestyle influencer. That there's almost a kind of leadership now where if you seem to be doing all the right things, if you're the person who on Instagram is doing the perfect workout, in the perfect workout gear, who then is doing the right social justice thing, who has the right aesthetic, who's good looking, whose family looks beautiful on picture, etc., you now have a form of lifestyle influence, who's eating the right stuff, etc. That's how influence works, particularly in emerging generations.
Wow.
But there is one that trumps all of them, which is spiritual authority. Yeah. You can be the president of a huge missions organization and have no spiritual authority, and people will not want to follow you. You can be the biggest, charmingest personality in the room, but if you've got no spiritual authority, people are going to see through you. You can be someone who has a bunch of intelligence and knowledge about something, but if you've got no spiritual authority, people are not going to follow you. There will be people who follow you, but ultimately your leadership will fall down. And increasingly in our world, where it's like that person has lifestyle influence authority, that looks even more hollow in this point in time. So what's happening in this moment, in this night, in this reboot, is people are hungry for spiritual authority. And David got spiritual authority because he first did it in the hidden places. Yeah. And so many people don't want to accept the hidden place. So many people don't want to go with God in the hidden place. David had victory over those wild animals. He had what Stephen Covey calls a private victory that comes before the public victory. We just want to go public victory. But this thing has short-circuited all of that. People will now listen to some person in a basement, you're in a basement with a mic, who's saying things with spiritual authority over the person who may have the lifestyle influence, the positional thing of the stage or the massive Instagram follow list. Like, this is a moment when it's actually spiritual authority has a cut through that it would not have in a normal time like that.